Paranoia is in boom. The PR transmissions will resume. They'll try to push drugs to keep us all dumbed down and hope that they will never see the truth around. Another promise, another scene, another package lie to keep us trapped in greed. Another green bells wrapped around our minds, an endless red tape to keep the truth confined. They will not force us. They will stop degrading us. They will not control us. We will be victorious.
Hey guys, hey Miguel, you're always first, thank you. This is something that I'm releasing for the first time. I just got off of Lee Camp's show to talk about this. About a month and a half ago, I met with one of the leads of the East Palestine EPA, and I was also with one of the residents, Christina, and Jenna, who you usually see in the comments here and there. And Christina's 4-year-old son, Eddie. So you're going to hear them in this video as well, not just me. And essentially, Mark Durno said that he would meet with me, and then he said yes. Then his assistant emailed me and said, I need a list of the questions you're going to be asking. And I was like, no, I don't do that shit. And not like that, but and I guess that wasn't okay, because then Mark and she started ghosting me. So I was like, fuck it, let's just show up anyway. And we did. So that was fun. We just pretty much walked in there and said, hi, yeah, we were planning on doing this meeting, but you've been ghosting me now. And so Mark Durno of the EPA is someone who will meet with affected residents. However, he is just like a total Pete Buttigieg. Like, he's word salad. He's slimy. He's totally slimy. And this tape, excuse me, he did not know I was recording. Actually, no one I knew that was in there knew I was recording. After the meeting, Christina said, oh, I'm so sorry you didn't get any of that on tape. I was like, I got it all. So yeah, nobody knew I was recording. Thankfully, in Ohio, it is a one-party consent state. So as long as there's one person in the room physically when you're recording, it's suffice. So surprise, Mark. Yeah, I taped it all. There's a lot of stuff on this recording that I've been really excited to get out. Some people are going to be using some of this information in their lawsuits. There's some revealing stuff, and Christina, as an affected local resident, She said, Joy, Durno said some things in this meeting I've never heard him admit to. Have that effect on people. So I'm excited. I've been toying how to do this for a month and a half, and I'm just so excited to finally let it out. This is the premiere. I do ask that if you share or give to any newspapers or any publications or anything like that, that you do credit me and my show, as far as it being this tape. Also, not just because of credit, but because it is being used in some lawsuits, and I needed to be very clear that it was my recording and not not theirs. Like, I don't know, even though it was illegal, I don't want it to look like entrapment or something like that, because these shady MFers will try something. So please just accredit it to me to kind of avoid all that shit. But here it comes. This is the full length meeting of Mark Durno of the East Palestine EPA. In the beginning, you'll see me walking into his office, and you'll see, him being like, I'd prefer not the camera. He didn't say audio. Oops. So here we go.
Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Yesterday was kind of chaotic, as you saw. We had to keep switching places because of the toxicity levels. I was like violently ill yesterday, but you know me, I came back again anyway. So I stayed an extra day. I'm here. EPA lead of East Palestine, Mark Durno, who helped with the Flint cover-up, agreed to meet with me today. However, his secretary or assistant or whoever emailed me and said, I want a list of questions. I don't fucking play that. I don't do that. No. I've done this shit for over 6 years. I do not get questions. That's not going to happen. So I just made up some bullshit. Like, what is EPA even doing? What are they doing now? That ain't going to be what I asked. So he's ghosting me now. We're just going to walk the fuck right in. So here we go. Don't turn that off.
I'm not turning it off.
They may call cops. I don't give a fuck. I'm sorry, Eddie. Christina, you may know. Eddie is for. Come on, baby. Let's go in. And yeah, I got my shirt. Because I don't need to wear business suit when I'm going. I'm going to represent. Oh.
There we go. Mark agreed to meet with me today, and now I will stop hearing that. So I'm here from Harrisburg, so I would like to meet with him since he agrees.
Also, there is a guy from Washington, D.C. We'll be able to have at least 3 people in here, so I gotta go anyway.
Okay, thank you so much for coming out. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
At least I can do it.
Thank you.
Good luck in there.
Thank you.
I'll be watching. Not watching, I'll be driving, but I'll watch later.
Right on.
Thanks,
Right.
Anna.
Travel
Guys.
safe.
Love you too. Hi, are you Joy? I am.
Okay, Mark's just on the phone. He'll be with me in just a second.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks. Oh, and Christina and Eddie will be. No worries. It's 3.5. You're our superstar. Eddie, you want to come here? Let's tell people. You guys know Eddie, because when I've had Christina on, he jumps on. And also, because he was at the rally I did 3 weeks ago or so. Do you want to tell people one of the things that's in the creek? Good job. Eddie's 4 years old. You don't like the smell of chlorine, right? No. What do they need to do with the creeks?
Test it.
Right. Got it. So, what do you want for the people of East Palestine? What do you think mommy, deserves and what do you think?
I don't know.
Do you think you guys should be not getting sick and breathing in good air? And you can go swimming in the creeks again and have fun? You don't have to wear that mask anymore. You can just have fun and play. I mean, this kid's lives, like his whole life has been COVID and trained around. Like his entire life. He's not the only one. But he is Superman. He wanted a vest, so he got all yellow ones. He wanted orange because it stands out. Because he's a rebel. You are a trooper. He always comes with Christina everywhere. And he's become my little buddy. He's one of the people we were able to help because of your donations. Unfortunately, after today, they've all been exhausted. We were able to give about $9,000 to the residents in and around East Palestine. Pallets of water, groceries, diapers, rehoming supplies because they're not having that covered either. Hi, I'm Joy.
Hey, Joy, I'm Mark.
Hi.
Meet you.
You too. Yeah, I was waiting to hear back. I talked to you and then I stopped getting responses. So,
Okay.
should we sit here or?
Let's step in the back. I prefer to have a conversation with you off camera first, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
Yeah. Great.
Come on, what's your name?
That's that room.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Here, I'll just take my phone so I can read my notes. I'll press stop. I put it right here. Oh, it's like a party back here. This is like a community room or something. Thank you.
So Joy, you're on Harrisburg?
I am in Harrisburg, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Good. You're good.
Buddy.
And who do you work for?
I'm a volunteer.
Oh, you're
I'm an activist.
Oh, very
Yeah.
good. So anyway, so what's EPA doing? All right, so we have several layers of activities. The first and foremost, when we came in February, was to set up. We were working supporting Ohio EPA. They were the lead agency.
They were in Columbia, huh?
No, their Ohio EPA's local office is Twinsburg.
Oh, okay.
And
Right.
they responded to this incident that first Friday night, and we recognized this one was going to be a big one. So we didn't even wait to get called. We were going to get called by Ohio EPA, but we didn't wait. We responded right away. The incident happened sometime. What was it, Christina? 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah,
Like that, right?
not like I think 8:50,
Yeah.
and then because I found out about it around 9:15.
Yeah, ish. Yeah. So
Yeah.
somewhere between 8 and 9, and we had people on the ground out of our Detroit office and out of our Cleveland office. I'm out of Cleveland. On the ground by about 1, 2 in the morning. So we were there right away, and we immediately set up an air monitoring network. That was our first role in this, and that's typical on emergencies. The state typically calls us in. They say, "Hey, this thing's bigger than what we have capabilities for. Can you guys come support our efforts? Whatever it is, air monitoring, water quality monitoring, water sampling, air sampling, etc." So we set up an air monitoring and sampling network initially.
And apologies, are you guys in charge of like notifying people?
No.
Because I know I've spoken to several dozen residents who have said that they only left their house because a neighbor knocked on their door
I've
and
heard
told
that too.
them.
I've heard the communications were challenging early on. So.
Yeah, so I mean, it's very evident that even the first responders didn't feel comfortable even going in themselves.
Okay.
So, you know, the people were left there. What is going on? You know, I've spoken to people who literally looked out the window and saw burning train cars running by their house, and you know, these effects. I was in here yesterday, not here, but outside and like around town. I was violently ill.
You were?
Yes.
From what?
The air.
Really?
Yes. I was vomiting. I know 2 of my friends had horrible diarrhea. I was nauseous. I had, my legs went numb.
Where were you? Where were you at? What's the part of
In front of this building.
In front of this building.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, actually, let's talk about that a little bit, because you know I've heard that from many residents that you know they either don't feel good when they go to their homes, or they don't feel good when they come into town, that's always been perplexing, and that's one of the reasons that we've asked the National Institutes of Health to come in and do a research workshop, which I'll talk about in a minute. But I want to get back to the air thing, which is pertinent to what you just told me, Joy. So we set up our initial air monitoring network, you know, around the Durno site the night of the fire, early that morning, and that extended, you know, all the way through the controlled burn. For the controlled burn or the vent and burn, we had to expand that monitoring outside the evacuation zone because of the potential for, you know, explosions of loud use rate. And then ever since then, it's been building. And the air monitoring network, and I can show you the map out at the entrance there. But ever since then, the air monitoring network has been 24/7. It's not just monitoring; it's monitoring and sampling. We have over 100 million data points and over 500,000 samples.
And what's being done with that?
So we review the data every day, and we have, since the evacuation was lifted, other than particulate matter, which I'll talk about in a minute, we have not seen any exceedances in the community. None, zero. And that's why what you described to me is kind of shocking.
Well, Christina, you live here, and do you want to show them your arm? I mean,
my arm, my legs, well, this one, but down here, I've had that since I was down at the creek.
Okay.
But I mean, I don't say anything to you guys because it's obvious I take the responsibility of going to the creek. But
but we wouldn't have to.
We wouldn't we wouldn't need to if we felt like things were being taken care of in the creek.
Well, we'll talk about the creek in a minute, but I still want to make sure Joy understands our
along with her being sick, like I've told you numerous times too, how I come up to town and I get sick. At home, I continue to be sick. It's been better in the last month.
That's great.
But still, it comes and goes like waves.
Yeah.
And upon coming up here, going by the creek, I started getting where my hands are like this, and my legs, like from here to my feet, go numb.
Yeah.
Or like they get tingly, like if you're sitting on them, like if you sit like this, and your feet fall asleep. But
I know exactly what you're saying, yeah.
And then I've had a lot of recently, like pain in my shoulder and back behind my knee, like achy muscles.
And these didn't happen before the drought.
And I never had.
And that's and Joy and Christina and I, we've known each other for months, and we talk a lot, you know, and I think we respect each other. And that's why we're bringing the health researchers in. We asked the university. We didn't ask. The National Institutes of Health gave the University of Kentucky a grant to initiate the research, and then this workshop is coming very soon, will, there'll be a panel of subject matter experts to hear all the stories, to look at all the environmental data that's been collected, that all this, that over 500,000 analytical points, 100 million monitoring points, all that data will get looked at by these experts. And
But didn't you guys a few months ago, wasn't your data released and then it was found to be incorrect?
it wasn't found to be incorrect. What it was, you're talking about the butyl acrylate and the
Correct,
chlorine
right.
stabilization detector. And I'll get on that. I'll talk about that in a second. But my point is on this point is that the data doesn't show that there's and it's not just monitoring data with PID, it's analytical data, sampling data. It goes well below action levels that were established by the health agencies, and we're just not seeing it. And that's what makes this hard. We hear.
So when does the word of the residents supersede what these tests are being shown? And also, why aren't they independently done? Why are they being appointed?
Well, that's the health research is going to be independently done. Again, we have no hands-on with what NIH is doing with the workshop, with what the grants they gave to UK. We have nothing to do with it. That's all independent. To the point about butyl acrylate, yes, we determined, we figured it out. Nobody else figured it out. We figured it out. Back in early March, we recognized that our photoionization detectors weren't responding to the lower levels. We were seeing lower levels with our analytical equipment, but we weren't seeing with our handheld. We were like, oh, this doesn't look right, and so we did a quick field study, and it looked like the butyl acrylate, we weren't seeing it below 100 parts per billion, right? The emergency action level is 330 parts per billion. So we were below the emergency level, right? So that those first couple days when things were chaotic, we could see butyl acrylate at the levels we needed to see it, for community protection. So I think that's an important distinction. But as we got into the longer term cleanup, we dropped that action level to 50 and then to 20. And that's where we are right now, with 20 parts per billion. We cannot see it at 20 parts per billion with that particular instrument. That's why the sampling is incredibly important. We're sampling with badges, we're sampling with canisters, we're sampling with sorbent tubes. We have a multi-layered program to see it. But to your point, and it's a great point. You asked, when does the word of the residents, how does that come into play, right? And one of the reasons we pushed Norfolk Southern to establish a temporary relocation program was because of concerns about vapors coming off of the Durno and said, well, all this environmental cleanup work has been done.
Temporary is what scares me, because these people, I'm hearing from people like Chrissy, you probably know her, Jamie, Stella, they are terrified that one day they're just going to be told, hey, sorry.
Yeah. And again, all I can say is, from EPA standpoint, that's one of the reasons we brought in the health experts to start advising on some of this stuff, because it's I don't know what else to tell you other than.
Or are they aware it's getting worse, like by the day? And this is gonna, the doctor from the CDC, his name escapes me, but he said something like, no, we can't help what you're testing positive for now, but we can help treat the cancers when they, occur. That is a absolutely egregious stance to take. I'm hearing about.
So what he meant, I was in the room, and what he meant by the statement was, our position is that there are not ongoing exposures happening. But your point is that how can you say that when people are telling us that they're exhibiting symptoms?
Right.
But the data, we're a data-driven agency, and we can't see it in the data. When Christina comes into town, she says, I don't feel good when I'm in this town. I don't know what to tell Christina, because the data shows that There's not, and it's not. We're not just doing the contaminants of concern. We're doing full scan volatile organics.
Well, why is the vinyl chloride testing still $700 out of pocket? Why, we went through COVID 100% free. People just go somewhere, they get tests.
I'm sorry.
One more from your group joins.
Yeah, sure, they can join. Well, he's it's up to
Yeah,
I'm not sure who it is, but sure.
him.
Oh, she said she was with you guys.
Oh,
Yeah,
Jenna
Jenna.
with the camera. Or well, I have my phone, but she was gonna film with her
Can
phone.
Oh,
That's
wasn't
a
the
good
film,
question too,
but I mean,
like
she
how-
wants to just.
She just sit in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they're cool with
Grab
it.
the chair, Mike, please.
But you said, before you go on about the vinyl chloride, you said that you don't know what to tell me when it comes to me coming and saying that we're sick. Like, I feel like a lot of us that I've talked to would much rather that you guys say you don't know what to tell us than to tell us everything's okay or to tell us that everything's not okay. Like,
Yeah.
we much rather hear, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because when I went to the clinic twice in Darlington, they had told me the first time they saw all my symptoms on a piece of paper, they looked in my ear and they said, well, you have a ear infection. Well, you didn't look at anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second time I went in, the lady told me, we have to tell you the truth and say that we don't know what to do right now. And we respect that more
Yeah.
than telling us
Well, but
what seems like a lie to us
yeah, I know.
or what seems like,
I know there's trust issues. I
Yeah.
know that. And the way I would respond to that, Christina, is, if you've heard me talk at public information sessions, and you've been at most of them, what I said was, as I told Joy, we have to follow the data.
Mhm.
However, we recognize that these health issues are being reported. We recognize it. We see it. And that's why we are bringing the health experts. We're not health experts. We're not toxicologists.
right.
We need that support to to advise, and that's again, that the NIH workshop will have those experts at the table to help try and solve this puzzle.
So to clarify, what in a much rudimentary way, what is your job? Not you as a person, but the
EPA's
EPA,
job. Yep.
right?
Well, like I told you, so we set up we call it the wall of protection. Right, it's all the sampling and monitoring equipment around the development site to make sure that no vapor clouds are getting into the community at levels that are unacceptable. And since the evacuation was lifted, we have not seen none of our sampling data, none of our monitoring data, except for particulate matter, because on dry, dusty days, we will see some dust, and that's mostly coming from our support zones where our trucks are being staged before they have to come into the work zones. And then,
Are you testing in Pennsylvania as well?
We do have, I think, 1 or 2 monitors in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Two now.
Yeah.
There were like 3, and then before that there was a little bit more than that even.
Yeah.
They've dropped.
But we do have on the Ohio side on that side of the excavation. So you have the excavation here, and you still have some monitors in Ohio. And if anything was blowing down in Pennsylvania, you should be able to see it. So I lost my train of thought.
You were talking about
We were
vinyl
in-
chloride levels or something.
Right, the testing. And, I don't know if you know Hillary Flint. Yes. I helped with the mutual aid by her rehoming thing. She's in Darlington. Well, outside of that, Rick Chai is sick all the time. These are people in Pennsylvania. You're in Pennsylvania. So I think it's important, we've heard a lot within the 1 mile radius, things like that. No, this is so beyond that. And I don't want to get into depth as far as some of the, health effects I've heard with this little guy, even though he's probably heard a lot of it. But it's very traumatizing, and I know he doesn't like the smell of chlorine. It upsets him. I guess there was some kind of explosion 2 nights ago, and a lot of people had
We know.
PTSD.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Bonnie
bad.
was afraid to leave her house.
Yeah.
No, it's heart wrenching. I get it, Joy. I get it. I don't get it like the people who've been impacted, but I've been doing disaster work since you know, in the early '90s, and I've seen a lot, and it never gets any easier.
So I guess where does the EPA realize that this is out of your control? That you need, where is FEMA?
Well, let me tell you what's in our control. I think that's an important distinction. We have an administrative order with Norfolk Southern. On February 21st, we issued a unilateral administrative order. That order, and it might be good for you to actually look through that, Joy, as you're continuing to report on this, just to see what we are demanding that they do.
Oh, could you actually, would you mind emailing that to me?
Yeah.
I have to use my blind accessibility device to look at that, but I would love to have it.
Yeah, I think it would be very helpful to you to see exactly what we're asking them to do. And the big piece of what we're asking them to do, obviously, is the environmental cleanup. But there are a lot of things that we built into there to support the community. The temporary relocation program was part of that. Under the environmental cleanup piece of it, we have asked for a number of work plans for all. And remember when we first started talking, I told you this is a very complex site, and it's multimedia. It's surface water, it's soil, on-site soil, evaluating off-site soil, evaluating perched groundwater, what we call the Sentinel well program, just beneath the railroad tracks and surrounding properties, the groundwater monitoring program, the municipal water monitoring program, potable well sampling, surface water, sediments, air, the whole air program I just described to you. So, it's all media that we're dealing with. And there are roughly 14 work plans that we've demanded from the company. And we got just about all but one of them finalized. And we're working all of them concurrently. There's over 200 people on the job every day out here working on
That's not, and I appreciate that. It's not comforting. You know what I mean? Like, you got a multi-billion-dollar corporation who thinks that so-called helping is bringing in Easter egg hunts and things like that on contaminated land, sending the residents $10 coupons. Like, this is beyond insulting. How about, do you know what 1881A is? It's healthcare that in Obamacare, it would have been, there's a place in Libby, Montana, where there was asbestos in the air, and they immediately got Medicare for life.
So it wasn't immediate. It took a long time.
Yeah.
One of my very close coworkers was the manager on that project, and it took a long time to get that through.
At least the ball would be rolling. I mean, I'm a disabled healthcare activist. That is, my passion. I worked in healthcare for over 10 years before I went blind. And, I've seen medical bills like crazy. I'm working on legislation with Congressman Ro Khanna personally right now for medical debt cancellation. I'm hearing these people saying, you know what? I can't go to the doctor. I'm sick. I don't know what's going on. Then they open this so-called free clinic. There are no specialists whatsoever. And they're being insulted with, well, we don't know what kind of drugs you've taken. Things like that. They have no help. Anywhere they turn, they have no help. So who is going to step up? Who's going to say, yeah, you know what? Why hasn't the EPA come out and said, you know what, Biden, you have these disaster declarations on your desk. You haven't even so much as talked about it. And it's been, 2 months? When is this happening? Why is the EPA not saying, you're the president? You could literally bring in FEMA. You could if it was a tornado, it would be a different story. But because it's a multi-billion-dollar corporation and so many companies and politicians are bought, we are seeing these people suffer, and nobody, frankly, is helping them. When people have to come in from out of state, and, I'm a disabled person who, I can't even get around, and I have to take an Amtrak with my white cane, and I'm traveling around you know, twice in 1 month to come help people because nobody else is. That is not okay. And I'm not saying I mind doing it because these people have become my family, but somebody has to take responsibility. Somebody. And quite frankly, it is the EPA. It is Norfolk Southern. It is everyone. Because what is happening? It's been over 6 months. Like, as an empath, I interview these people and I see how bad they are hurting. And I see how they feel like they don't even want to get out of bed in the morning. It's such despair. They have PTSD. They don't even have health care to go to a psychologist. This is violence. These people are suffering so beyond words. And I didn't truly understand it until I started meeting with these people and really hearing their stories and hearing their, you know, about little ones like Eddie and Kyla, and hearing how, like, Eddie, what's one of the chemicals?
Hexalacylate.
He's 4. Why? What is happening? What is it going to take? Because it's been over 6 months. What is it going to take?
So, you know, the answer to that question is above my pay grade. You know,
As I mean, if you have compassion, what would you like to see happen?
I want to see this the NIH workshop come to play. I want to see if we can make a connection between the environmental issues and the health issues that we're being told about. Again, I'm gonna keep coming back to the unbelievable amount of data that we've collected. And again, that's what makes it so hard. And
when does it come to the point?
We need the health experts to advise, and that's
give people health care. Doctors are health experts. These people need. I mean, when you're having, you know, rashes and little kids are bleeding when they pee, and you know, people are bleeding out their ears, and people's teeth are falling out, and you know, people are being told they'll probably never have kids, and all of these. They can't even see a doctor. That is traumatizing all over. It is exacerbating every single thing they are going through. That is violent. It is inhumane. So who do we talk to? Because these residents have talked to everyone. They've gone, you know, and I appreciate the fact that many of them have met with you and you have been willing to meet with everyone, and that you were willing to meet with me. But at some point, there has to be some responsibility taken. Like, at the end of the day, when you go home, do you say, holy, like, I wish I could do more? Like, do you have those thoughts?
Every job I've ever done, I've been able to see the full technical solution all the way to the end. Every single one. This one's different because this one, let me give you an example. Joy. Back in 2010, I worked a massive oil spill. And it wasn't just oil; it was diluted bitumen. And that's when they take, you heard of the tar sands up in Canada?
Right.
They take the tar sands, they use light ends, benzene, toluene, ethylbenzene, xylene, light ends to make it flowable in pipelines. One of these pipelines broke up in Michigan, and the acute health effects from these families was heart wrenching. It was gut wrenching, and we were able to get them set up in a long-term monitoring program because it was night and day, right? And so we knew that the health piece was covered right off the bat, right? Then we had the environmental piece. We knew how to solve the environmental problem. That's what we did, right?
But was there health care implemented? Because
not that I'm aware of. But
okay, so that's
long-term monitoring.
Monitoring doesn't help. It's not comforting.
But my point is we knew the technical solution. We knew these people were going to get some appropriate monitoring because it was an acute exposure. It wasn't a chronic exposure.
Acute means immediate, right?
What's that?
Acute means immediate,
yes.
Right? Okay.
And the benzene levels dropped down within a couple of days. So it was gone, right? So because of the technical solution, we were able to get these people away from the hazard immediately. And they were out of their homes for months, until we could be reassured. And then that particular company ended up buying out the homes that were most impacted. But
The
the
company
reason-
bought out the homes
A
that
couple.
people who were affected.
Most impacted, yeah.
And
And it was
then-
only a handful.
But you said that it was immediate, the benzene, and then that went away immediately. And
They were removed from the hazard.
Yeah.
Yes. And again, the monitoring was clear. It was, you saw the level, we knew what the health level was. It was well above the health level.
and they've been permanently relocated.
No, all I know is that with a few of those homes, they
Right.
bought them out. And so, yeah, I'm sure they bought the houses elsewhere.
Is there,
My point is, before you go there, Christina, my point is, the solutions were obvious, right?
Mhm.
You have people being exposed to unacceptable levels of hazardous materials. You get them out of those areas, right? And they're taken care of. And then we work on the cleanup. We clean up to whatever standards we establish for that site. On this site,
That's what I have questions
on
about.
this site, we're cleaning up the groundwater standards. Every piece of soil that gets dug up, the bottom of that excavation is cleaned up to groundwater standards. The bottom, what's underneath those tracks are cleaner than they've ever been. I assure you that. With 100% confidence, I assure you that. I've looked at the data. I have been on the excavation myself, and I've seen it.
From the ground zero, like derailment. Because
Even in those burn pits.
I did
Everything's
speak to someone that is able to see that from their window, and they saw that they only dug up the top of the soil before they laid down the new tracks.
Oh, during emergency, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes.
Why didn't they dig down like they said they were gonna?
They did eventually.
Eventually,
But then they said it was safe for people to come back, and people came back with their kids.
So that's where we get to the actionables. I'm glad.
Yeah, I got some questions.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Okay.
I'll answer
She
what I
lives like kind of on the border in PA.
and I'll answer what I can, and what I can't, I'll tell you what I can.
Okay, right on.
When the tracks were reestablished, and again, I wasn't here those first 2 weeks. I didn't get here till mid to late February, so I've been here ever since.
Who was heading that up? Was that Deborah Shore and
No, it was our on-scene coordinators who are on-scene.
on-scene coordinators?
On-scene coordinators.
Okay.
That's like I'm a certified on-scene coordinator.
Certified on-scene
That's somebody who's delegated to respond to emergencies,
Okay.
and we have contracting authority to hire people to come do environmental cleanups.
And that was 2 weeks after.
So I got here after a couple weeks, but during that time period, yes. What I learned was that the company reestablished the railroad ballast, laid tracks, knowing that there was going to be longer term environmental cleanup. In discussing that with our state partners, all of our
And EPA? State
at EPA,
partners?
yep, and EPA, Ohio EPA and US EPA discussed this.
Okay.
And what Ohio EPA advises that this contamination is way too heavy for just a typical remedial action that the state would oversee, and that's why we ended up taking charge.
And that's the time period that people were told that it's safe to come back.
So that's
to.
what's happening in the neighborhoods is different than what was happening there. So what was happening there was that was the site itself, right? It was covered up, tracks were established, rail traffic started happening.
And people
right?
are living here
Now, the evacuation was lifted on October 8th, February 8th.
February.
Our air monitoring and sampling data was a large part of lifting that evacuation.
Got questions about that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
But we reviewed all the on the ground air monitoring data, air sampling data, and yes, it still smelled. According to our guys, again, I wasn't here, but according to our guys, yes, it still smelled, but all the data was showing that the chemical levels were below our acute action levels. Okay, that's important.
They said that in Flint too, though.
By the time we responded to Flint, there was an emergency declared. That was, I mean, Flint was a whole state mess up. I mean,
Over 9 years later, it's still in peril. You came
That's-
from Flint,
I
right?
did, and that's not true. The water quality in Flint is, I worked that job And I'm still, if you look at the website, I'm still listed as the response coordinator on it. So
And you said the water is fine?
it is. It is. I'll yes, absolutely.
What?
Okay, so I got a question. I've been kind of sitting on it. That's why I have my hand up. I've got a question about I'm trying to think of
Lead
what
levels
this-
are well below the action levels.
Well, there's more problems than just the lead in the plant. But okay, so we're using words like, I haven't heard the word safe, and like, yeah, I'm hearing no levels of concern.
That's right.
So concern, if you're not concerned, you don't care. So I'm wondering about the monitoring and testing and all these things that have done to determine that it's been no longer a concern. It wasn't really a concern even when it happened. But I've got questions about the monitoring. How effective is it to determine the point where it is safe to be? And yeah, I get it. We live in the Rust Belt, so it never was clean to begin with. Like clean and if it was safe, that ish.
Yeah. So.
But a train just like.
And I'm sorry. What's your name?
I'm Jenna.
Jenna. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I live in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
got a friend in
So no, and you bring up a good point. You bring up a good point, Jenna. So when we deal with these emergencies, there are 3 action levels that we use.
Action levels?
Action.
Okay.
Okay. We have the acute action levels.
Right,
That means
immediate.
immediate. That means you can be exposed to this certain level for up to 2 weeks. Okay. I'm just.
Yeah, I hear you.
And you know what?
It's not ideal, but yeah.
It's not ideal. And does that mean that some people who are sensitive to those
Right.
compounds might have a reaction to them?
Right, I get that.
They might, right? And now let me ask you that question: is that safe?
No, it's not.
Thank you.
And so if a corporation does this, there needs to be things done
Everyone
in
and I are
order
playing.
to, there needs to be things done in order to, I'm not saying make it like it never happened, because it happened. It happened, there's nothing we could do about it. But there's things that could be done for the people who were impacted. And I don't feel like these things are being done. I don't even feel like there's an attempt being made. It seems more to be covering it
Let's
up.
step back to the original question.
Okay,
The safety question earlier.
right.
So we have acute action levels, first 2 weeks, right?
Mhm.
And all of the air monitoring and sampling.
The air monitoring. Okay.
Because I know that there were issues, and you're absolutely right, there were issues not being able to see butyl acrylate at those lower levels.
Yeah.
early on. We know that. But the sampling that we were doing alongside of it, when those results came in, confirmed that what we were saying was correct. That, those butyl acrylate levels were not at above the acute levels. We know that, right? And there were other
For
compounds.
the 2 weeks, that if
For the
you're
first 2
exposed to this.
For those first 2
Yeah.
weeks, right there. So everything was below those acute action levels, right? After 2 weeks, then that level drops, right? It went from the emergency action level immediately was for that particular chemical, and we have them listed for the chemicals of concern, but for that particular chemical it's 330, then it was dropped to 50, and that was still during the acute phase. When ATSDR did an additional.
So what phase? I'm sorry.
It's still during the acute phase.
Acute phase,
Yeah.
okay.
And emergency action level immediately 330, dropped to 50 during the acute phase. And then for the intermediate phase, which is 2 weeks to 365 days, which would be from now until February 3rd of next year,
Next year.
that number is 20 parts per billion, okay? But
Which
that-
is still not ideal.
Well, with butyl acrylate, you're right, it's not. But for butyl acrylate, you'll smell it in the part per trillion. You'll smell it a lot lower. I mean, if you were down, I understood there was some odors down by the tracks. Yesterday when they started digging into this south car scrapping area. And our staff, there were some, we could smell the butyl odors.
Yeah,
That's in the part per trillion. When you
that's in
smell
the what?
it.
Part per trillion?
That's,
Okay.
those are lower. You'll smell it in the part per trillion. The action level is 20 parts per billion.
What does action level mean?
Remember the level by which
Levels of
actions
concern.
need to be taken to,
Okay. Because we drove home and like my throat, and I don't live in the cleanest, most pristine, like I'm not living up in the forest somewhere, like I live around pollution and I'm used to it. Like we've got orange level days, we had the Canadian wildfire smoke, and like my throat was like pretty much, like I'm used to breathing crappy air.
Yeah.
But after yesterday, this is different. This is at a level that, and it's like everything's fine. It's like, what, I don't think everything's fine. Like we couldn't taste salt for 2 days last time we drove. Yeah. And just drove through. We couldn't taste salt.
So that,
It was
again,
weird.
That's perplexing.
Yeah, it's weird, yeah. And we don't live here. Like we didn't even spend like a whole day here. Like it was just.
So you
like,
haven't, that's news to you that people
No,
have?
Christina's been telling me that since March. But it's perplexing to me because, you know, I just, like I said, all of the air monitoring sampling we're doing does not, not only does it not show contaminants of concern, just about all of our data is 100% non-detect.
So
Not-
doesn't that,
Non-detect. We're not seeing chemicals.
but doesn't that prove to you that the data is not, you know, does not equate to the fact that these are human beings, not computers? And
that's why we're bringing in health experts to help.
when are they coming?
The UK already started their piece of it. NIH and the workshops come in any week now. They finally funded it a couple of weeks
National
ago.
Institute of
It's
Health.
been
Is there
over
a
6
way
months.
to somehow, like you guys got canisters, so instead of testing for each chemical by themselves, is there a way
No, we're doing
test them like so you breathe in?
Yeah.
And so I'm just gonna pick chemicals, but you breathe in and you breathe in acrolein, butylacrylate, formaldehyde, oxygen, carbon dioxide. So all of these are acting some way in your body together, but they test like separately. So if you test them all each separately, I've talked to you about that before, they could be a low level, but in your body, they're all interacting together.
Yeah, and so here's one of the problems, Christina. We are testing for, full scan, what we call TO15 analysis for volume, plus other contaminants. And like I said, most of the results come back non-detect. You can't even be analytical. We can't even see them in the analytical. So, the analytical methods don't go down to those parts for the quadrillion range. I think what you're saying is, could there be combined low-level exposure of some sort with all these contaminants? And again, the technology is not there to show that. And again, I keep going back to Joy's point. Joy's point is, well, then we've got a handful of people in this community that they don't feel well, and why do they have to be exposed? And that's the hard part, right?
Like we might not be able to live here again. I've been to Britain and all over the East Coast and some of the West, and I've never felt as sick as I do here. And this is my home. It's been destroyed. I don't feel like my kid can be here. I don't feel like Jamie's kid can be here. I don't feel like my dog can be here. I've lost 7 cats and I've lost a chicken. And that happened whenever the wildfires happened. But it's because, it seems like, well, they only can handle so much. And how much can we handle before we start dying too? And we need help. And you guys have a voice. The mayor has a voice. I'm not mad. I'm kind of mad at him for not speaking up because he's the biggest voice in town. But we need help.
Now, all I can tell you, Christina, is, I talk to our administrator's office every week, and I remind them of everything that we're dealing with, including the public's concerns and what you're doing. They know it. They're here.
I've talked to my representative last week, and he was like, the creeks are really still like this, and it seems like maybe Joe Biden doesn't really understand what's going on because he doesn't come here. And our senators and our representatives, they don't have the time to all come out here and see what's going on for a week and feel the way we do.
And I'll be the first to acknowledge that it's taken way too long to get that assessment done in the creeks. It should have happened.
Other cricks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
you
told
couldn't
me
wait
before
till the
it should have happened a long time ago. But all these,
I can tell you why, but you don't want to hear that. What you want to hear is that the job's going to get done.
Does the EPA have the, are you guys going to put out a statement and say, Biden, you need to declare a disaster, you need FEMA, because this is beyond one
capability. I mean, the health people coming in, okay, great. That's not doing it. These people, they need immediate. I can't keep raising money to keep bringing pallets of water and stuff. Last night I broke down because after today I have no more donations, and these people are my family now, and who is going to help them? I don't know.
Sometimes it feels like the only thing that can help us is like God. You just keep praying that God will help you. And like, where is he? But that's been the situation throughout parts of my life. But like, it's some like, I feel like it would be helpful if the EPA would ask for Joe Biden to sign a declaration.
Demand,
And
not
like,
ask. Demand.
just like,
Well, I'll tell you, Christina, you guys.
we need somebody more
when you
powerful
guys-
than us to stand up.
When you guys went to Washington and talked to our leadership, they heard you. 'Cause we heard about it the
I
next
mean,
day.
I don't think.
I don't know what happened
I don't
in Washington
think they
because we barely
listened,
talked about it
though.
since.
They may have heard them, but did they listen? Because what's happened?
Well, I can't speak for them. I can't speak for them. All I know is, that they definitely heard you.
Are you
I mean-
claiming that the water is safe to drink, like
Oh,
the well and
I am
municipal?
100% confident in water right
Without any home filters or anything, like straight from the
now.
tap? It probably was safe to drink.
100% confident.
I don't believe that.
I know, and you know what? A lot of the community doesn't believe that.
There's people with chemical burns on their head.
I saw that picture.
It's not funny. It's not
I'm
funny.
I'm not laughing. I'm smiling because we're trying to equate. What's happening with people's health to the one medium that I am 100% confident in.
The water, but you said the water is less cool, and it's not. I don't live there, but I've talked to people who.
Do you know who Jordan Sheridan is
I know
from
Jordan.
South? Okay, yeah. So
And Melissa Mays.
and
No,
Melissa May
no,
is
Melissa, I said hi.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No.
So
and
it's like-
Melissa will tell you. So we'll
Okay.
sidebar for a minute. She'll
Okay.
tell you that because it's an oversized system, the Flint drinking water system is an oversized. And she would be right.
Oversized.
Oversized.
Okay.
It was built to handle about 300,000 people. They have less than 100,000 people living in that town now because of the decline of the automotive,
Oh yeah.
as you know.
I know where you're going.
And that water system, it doesn't flow fast
So
enough.
it's
So it sits, and there's a potential for bacterial buildup and the solution to that, the technical side was fixed. If there are some closed loop areas in that system, they need to be working with the local water department to make sure there's proper flushing going on. The solution's there, to make sure there's proper flushing going on, to make sure there's enough chlorine residual in those loops that bacteria can't build up. And that's at the local. That's the lead problem, the orthophosphate problem, all that water chemistry, that was fixed.
So they get sick from the bacteria in their water now.
They could,
In
if
the
they are living in an area on the remote ends of the system where if there's not enough water circulation in that end of the system. Again, the city should be monitoring that.
And they're
those
not.
taps. Well,
Do you know what she's brought up blending? Do you know what the blending?
yeah, from between the Karen Gandhi drinking water system and the Great Lakes drinking water system, and they
Okay.
blend 5% Karen Gandhi.
Can you speak to that a little bit? Because
Only that it's happening. It's an emergency backup system essentially. So the Flint went back to the Detroit or Great Lakes
right.
drinking water system. The Karen Gandhi was supposed to be the primary water source for Flint, but because of because of the bad decision to go and try and treat your own water with a water treatment plant that was not ready for operation and probably never would have been because it was so out of date. That's when the crisis happened. That's when the disaster happened.
Right. Yeah.
So they were supposed to go on Karen Gandhi, but it was finished. But we negotiated a deal with the city and the state that they would go on Detroit now. Detroit, in order to accommodate that, wanted the business long term. Fine, Detroit water is great water. It's properly treated. All you need to do in Flint is add a little bit of disinfectant, add a little bit of orthophosphate, and you've got high quality water going into the Flint system. It is high quality. Now, the water coming in from Karangandi, if there is a problem with the Great Lakes, like they have a main pipe burst or whatever, they can immediately switch to Karangandi and keep Flint completely cycled with appropriate drinking water. In order to keep those pipes active, they blend 5% Karangandi, which comes from Lake Huron, and 5% Detroit, which also comes from Lake Huron, I believe. And so it's 95.5. That's the blend generally.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Mm-hmm. So I kind of, I mean, I know what the EPA is from being a journalist and meeting with these people and stuff, but it's kind of like what I'm gathering is like your job is kind of at the EPA. It's kind of like looking at data. You don't really have any pull beyond that.
Well, we're in charge of the environmental cleanup, right? That's our primary responsibility, right? The environmental cleanup, once done appropriately, should be protected for public health. That's our charge. Clean up the environment, make that land appropriate for public health, right? And that's our role. Now, again, this is a different animal because of the health issues that have been very well documented, and we need the health experts to advise, to study, and hopefully on short order. Right?
So would you encourage people to participate in every study that they could possibly do? Even if it's not with just University of Kentucky, but there's 6 surveys that you can do now.
I would advise people to look at the surveys and make that judgment for themselves. Some of the surveys were also designated for people that are working. I filled out a few surveys, because I filled out some surveys because I'm working here. I've been here pretty much full time since February. I wore one of the UK wristbands.
Are you living in town?
No, I'm staying up in Warren.
In what?
Warren,
Oh,
Ohio.
that's pretty far.
Yeah. So I start my day every day in Columbia at our command post. Work there for a few hours and come down here and work.
So how far are you living from ground zero?
Where am I sleeping?
Yeah.
About 45 minutes away.
Okay, so you just commute every day out.
Yes.
He's got Snapchat on.
Um,
Making funny
I'm
faces.
sorry, Eddie.
Again, Jenna, you asked about water quality. You asked about water quality, and then we sidebarred to Flint.
To Flint, yeah.
So over 600 private wells have been sampled, and the only detections have been extremely low levels, well below the maximum contaminant levels for drinking water, and most of the detections, even at the super low levels, are non-segregated. Like we saw some phthalates, some issues down in Negley because there's a landfill down there, right? But other than that, the drinking water in the potable wells, I'm actually surprised at how clean it is.
The creeks are still so contaminated. It's all
They're bubbling
to the ground. It's like, isn't everything connected?
So that's check in with us in 2 weeks. We'll have our sulfur run data back, and we'll have a good feeling for how deep the sediments.
Because if you could see it, that means it's a problem. It could be a problem without even being able to see it, but you could see it.
Yeah.
I've seen
Groundwater infiltration takes years or decades.
Yeah.
That's why when I tell you I'm 100% confident in groundwater, I'm not telling you I'm 100% confident in groundwater in 10 years. I'm telling you that I'm 100% confident in groundwater now. And if we do the environmental cleanup right, no groundwater should be impacted.
My questions kind of arise. I'll give you a little bit of background. So I'm at home and watching this play out back in February, and I'm looking for, because it kind of piques I'm from this area originally, a little further north, but that's why I knew where Warren was. So it kind of piqued my interest. I started watching. I started going down. I was watching a news program from what was it, Youngstown, and they had pictures of smoldering trains. Like, I'm gonna paint a picture for you. They had pictures of smoldering trains up on my TV screen, and according to experts, they say there's no air quality or water quality issues of concern, and the air is just as it was before the derailment. I think it's the direct quote. I could go back and look, but
I believe you.
I've written it
I
out
believe
because I've paused it to make sure I get I've posted it over and over
I
again.
believe
It's pretty close.
I absolutely believe
No, exactly the way it was before. And on the screen, the picture that they're showing me on my couch, not a scientist, so I'm trying to be open-minded here.
Yeah, and you're looking at it, you're like, come on. Really?
It's smoldering, and I'm seeing this thing go up in the sky, and there's people posting pictures
You know
of
who
it
said that?
from
You know who
Pennsylvania.
changed
It was Youngstown
Say,
News.
God, I hope it wasn't us.
It was lady. It was a what?
I said, God, I hope it wasn't us.
It was the news.
Seriously,
I've got some quotes from that's why I knew that name. What's the name? Shore?
Hey, Deborah. Yeah.
Oh my
I'll be
God.
the first to acknowledge that the way we communicated that first week and a half.
There's absolutely no way that there is
How
no
could-
air or water quality issues of concern. There's no way. Because I'm seeing pictures of smoke in the air. No, we've monitored it.
I know.
We have our monitoring place.
Well, we
The
should have.
CEO of, one more thing, the
Yeah.
CEO, do you know where I'm going, of Norfolk Southern testified in front of Congress. Since, he said that air and water, it was up during the accident. And since the train is on fire, they had monitoring in place. And they've never shown any issues of air or water. It's always been safe.
Yeah.
He testified in
And,
front of Congress.
Again, it's the communication bug, right? If you come out after a situation like this and you see the image you described and you try to use the word safe.
And he said safe.
I know.
But EPA is more careful. They say of concern.
Yeah, and just I even think somebody at EPA might have used
The what?
somebody at EPA might have used the term safe.
They said safe. They're
They
real
might have.
careful not to because I've watched a lot of.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, what we should have been advising was, listen, there are these, just like I was telling you earlier, Jenna, all these chemicals are below our thresholds, but
I
they're
think
there.
that's a problem though.
They're there. They're in the community,
Yeah.
but they're below our, emergency action
Is that a
levels.
problem?
You can go home, but just be aware, that they're still low level.
But they may
That's what
have
should have been done
to
to
go
begin with.
home.
Yeah. Should they have gone
Well,
home after that first week?
I don't know the answer to that. I know that they were, again, those levels were below our action levels. They were.
And what are your feelings about the 1 mile radius? When originally, because I'm watching this, and I'm talking about real time, like back in February. In real time, they started talking about shrapnel. Like they wanted to get people out a mile in a radius because of shrapnel concerns. Okay, so now we're talking about chemicals and stuff in the air and stuff in the water. That 1 mile radius we'll just use that 1 mile that we were talking about, like actual things flying through the air. They can be pelted a mile away.
Yeah.
But we're still using the mile to determine things. It's like, that mile is scrapped because water flows, air, like Canadian wildfires, which is 3,000 miles away up north. I'm down in Pennsylvania, and my tomatoes aren't getting any sun because there's smoke. So that's more than a mile, 10 miles. That's thousands of miles. So these things, and then Pennsylvania, state borders don't hold back. And nothing's happening
There's
in
no
Pennsylvania.
bubble.
Nobody's talking about Pennsylvania. I don't know if in real life here, but nobody's talking in Pennsylvania, are they?
Yeah, we did our large scale soil sampling program. And we actually expanded past the 2 mile zone, the 1 by 2 mile zone. We got down in here mainly because Christina saw the plume map where the major deposition of particles happened, and we realized that it went past the 2 miles. So we expanded our soil sampling program to get more data on that. With respect to water, if you look at one of our maps we have up front, if you're facing the front door and look to your right, you'll see that the groundwater protection area goes all the way down past Magnet. Because of what you said, the contamination in the creeks went past this magical boundary, right? So
But initially, how long was that in place initially? Like in the first, was that before your time, or was that like?
this was established in our unilateral administrative order when it went into play on February 21st. So we had to create a enforceable boundary in our order for for purposes in the administrative order. And at the time, that made sense. Now, like I said, there are some instances where we've negotiated with the company to go outside of those boundaries.
Negotiate with the company?
Yeah.
What company is that?
Norfolk Southern.
Oh, you're negotiating with the.
Yeah, well, we basically amended the work plans to go outside of the boundary of the order for.
Do they have authority? Like, what kind of authority do they have?
EPA?
No, yeah, what kind of authority does Norfolk Southern have over the EPA?
None, zero.
You negotiated something with Norfolk Southern?
Yeah, through the work plan process. Yeah, basically we ordered them to, expand the groundwater protection all the way down past Negley. But when we say negotiated, we had to go through the discussions of, how's this going to play out? What's the technical? What are the technical justifications for these? For these changes, et cetera, et cetera.
It kind of like, again, I'm not a scientist. I'm not, but it blows my mind to hear words like that used. They shouldn't even have a say in any of this because they did this, and it's not in their best interest.
Well, but Jenna, think about it this way. On one hand, we're being told they have to do the cleanup, right? And they have to pay for the
I don't
cleanup.
agree with that. They have to pay for it, but I don't think they should be in charge of it.
Well, that's what. Again, and on the other hand, it's EPA. How are you guys letting them do this work? Well, that's the way our system works. We order them to do the work, and that's the regulation. That's the way the law works. So
that's a problem. I think.
You're not the first person who said that.
Okay.
It kind of feels like your rapist is getting to rape you over and over and over again.
Yeah. It's violent.
I mean, like, that's the thing to compare it to, and I've heard a lot of people compare it to that. But, like, the people who have to go and beg to get money every couple weeks or every month from Norfolk, they feel like they're going back to their rapist to ask them to do their rape kit with the cleanup.
Yeah, I mean, there's moms and kids still living in hotels almost 7 months later.
And since you were bringing up going out to PA, like for people who have tested positive for chemicals in PA and tested, like their homes have had testing done, had chemicals in their homes, like what is going to be done for them at all?
So there's two last things I want to touch on because I'm getting behind.
Yeah, sorry, Eddie, you were being so good. I'm gonna buy you ice cream.
So yeah, two last things I want to touch on, and then we can maybe talk by phone if you want to, down the road if you have any more questions. But
Yeah, because we can always do it like on Zoom or something as
Would
well.
you go on your show? Would you go? Is that a good idea?
But I prefer not to go on camera.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
you would
or
want to
we
go on
can-
her live stream? It'd be fun. Come on.
Well, I can always I can always write an article or whatever. Yeah.
That's fair. But at the end of the day, Christina brought up indoor sampling, right? And one of the demands that has been asked for by the concerned citizens is why aren't you doing indoor testing? And indoor testing is complicated. There are a whole lot of chemicals that are in people's homes that have nothing to do with the trend around. We go in there and start sampling, we're going to see it. And I assure you, the next, once that data is present, why are these chemicals in my home?
But outside the realm of standard household, because in the house. Okay, so people were told to shelter in place, which is we'll leave that for another day.
Yeah.
outside the realm of normal household chemicals, because a train just blew up in this community and a smoke, like it just lingered. Like it's going to be different than like the baseline of normal, like even high levels of normal. It's going to be different, right?
It is. It could be.
But people were told it was safe. It was the evacuation, but we're not testing. Do you see how that's?
We did. I mean, we did indoor screening to make sure that there were no high hazards present. And like I said, even though those photoionization detectors couldn't see at our lower effect levels, they could see at the emergency effect levels. And we did do, anytime we got even a blip on our monitoring equipment, we pulled a vinyl chloride tube test. We didn't see any vinyl chloride in over about 100 homes where we ran those tube tests.
Would it still ring as vinyl chloride, even though it'd been combusted? Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It would still say vinyl chloride even if it's a different state?
And the primary byproducts were phosgene and hydrogen chloride, and we would also do hydrogen chloride testing as well.
And that's a separate test other than the standard?
Why wouldn't you do formaldehyde?
Well, why would we do formaldehyde?
Because it's a combustible vinyl chloride.
Well, there's a bunch of combustible compounds,
Right.
but the primary compounds are hydrogen chloride and phosgene, and that's what we set up the monitoring network for. So if we see the primary compounds, then we can start looking at secondary compounds. And formaldehyde's it's a product of most, not just
It's
organic.
in your body too. But
Yeah, exactly. So when the monitoring was looking at the chemicals of most concern. So that's how we established the program.
Do you feel that some of these, I know that you're not in the medical community or anything, but do you feel that maybe some of these illnesses are from the early lifting of the evacuation order when it was still,
So
nothing has been.
I believe that the illnesses, and this is just opinion. This is way out of my lane.
That's kind of what.
This is just a group of people talking around the table, right?
Right.
My position on it is I do believe that some of the ongoing health concerns are from early exposures, either that weekend or that next week. But I do believe that that probably is happening.
I was wondering about
I
that.
have a hard time wrapping my mind around that there are ongoing exposures because, again, I look at the data and I just don't see it.
But if you didn't look at the data, would you think that there were still ongoing exposures?
Of course, based on what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Sure. But again,
And there's people currently testing positive for having vinyl chloride.
well, they're not. They're testing positive for thiodinoglycolic acid,
Okay.
which is a metabolite that is a metabolite of many things, including
Okay.
vinyl chloride. And when that was brought to our attention, we brought the health community in,
Okay.
and they in one of our newsletters we put out a what could be the reasons that you're testing positive for thiodinoglycolic acid.
And what are some of those reasons it could be?
Well, there's several foods that can cause it, including meat. I take vitamin B12, and vitamin B12 can do it. Onions and garlic can do it. Exposures to other organic chemicals, especially in the workplace, can cause it. There are several reasons why that particular metabolite would be there. When we talked to our health professionals about it, they said, we don't recommend this test because it's indeterminate. If you
Right.
have that metabolite in your body, well, a lot of us do. Probably a good percentage of us do because of our diets.
Along those lines, the people who tested positive for benzene, and I thought of this a couple weeks, like last week, I was listening to something, and it had said that some dioxins have benzene and chloride molecules.
Well, all
So-
benzene, all dioxins are chlorinated.
Okay, but can they have benzene molecules on them?
So they have phenol rings, which
Okay.
is in the same chemical category.
So then could people be testing, and I know that they test for the metabolite of benzene too,
Yeah.
but could they be testing positive for that because of dioxins being
That's a
in
good
the
question,
system?
and I don't know the answer to that. Interestingly, the initial health
Because they
work,
stick around longer.
the initial health work that Dr. Haynes did with the University of Kentucky included dioxin blood
Right.
testing. I'll be curious to hear what she has to say about that, because that's really it. Metabolites don't tell you that. Direct blood testing does.
Mhm.
So that data should be coming soon. So stay tuned.
When's that meeting gonna be? Do you know when the meeting's gonna be?
I don't know.
Is that gonna be
Do
open
you
to the
guys
public?
have another meeting coming up at all?
We don't have one scheduled, but as soon as we have a significant enough change in operations
Okay.
where there's something reportable.
And there'll be a lot more information once that meeting with the NIH with y'all and.
As soon as it gets scheduled, yeah, that'll be a big.
Oh, it hasn't been scheduled yet.
No, they just they got their expert panel deadline was last Thursday.
So they had a meeting last Thursday.
No, we had a meeting last.
Okay.
NIH's expert panel was due to be established by the applications were due by Thursday, so I'm sure they're
right on.
reviewing who should
Okay,
be
that
on
makes
the
sense.
panel. Yeah, so that's coming.
How do you feel in general about the handling? Like, you have experience dealing with other disasters and stuff. How do you feel? Has this one run particularly bumpy or not as smoothly as other ones?
Early on, the whole month of February was a rough ride, and I was only here for part of it, and it was very chaotic.
Do you think anybody needs to be
think-
held accountable, responsible for lifting the evacuation order?
No,
So quickly.
again, they were basing it largely on our data. They're basing it largely on our data, and our data was showing that the levels were below those acute action levels. And
But you're saying that you believe that people are probably sick now from early onset exposure.
no, I never finished my answer to that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go on.
Yeah,
I'm
so-
sorry.
So I said I do believe that some people that are having health issues probably
Right.
was due to exposures early on. I do believe that some folks are dealing with a lot of PTSD.
Well, that seems
you know.
dismissive of the real things.
I know, but I'm just telling you what I think.
Yeah. Well,
So yeah, I mean, I do think that there's the potential for something else going on that we just haven't figured out yet.
so like other chemically kind of pollution things going on in
Yeah, I mean that's again.
Rust Belt, Western.
Again,
The cracker plant? Do you think it's cracker plant?
Yeah. I'm not going to comment on anything I don't know.
Yeah,
I know it's there.
Yeah, we know it's there too.
I know it's there. Yeah, but I know.
And it's trade derailment. But yeah, it's fine because we're told it's fine. We're told Edgar Thompson's. Oh, it's fine. No levels of concern. So
Yeah, I don't know anything about
I'm concerned. Like maybe levels of
you and
concern.
a lot of other people.
I'm pretty concerned.
Yeah.
Like we're living in it just seems like there's just so many things happening all around that this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. And, oh no, it's fine. It's like I don't think it's fine. Like I've lived in this region for 6 years and I've never been so like I think I got a cold once every 5 or 6 years. It's like I got 5 or 6 a year now.
Really?
Yeah,
Because
because the air is
37
perfect.
and a half and haven't been as sick as I have been in the last 6 months.
Maybe it's just PTSD.
So, yeah, I hope I could answer a few questions. I know a lot of what we talked about is not satisfying.
No.
I know.
Yeah.
But I appreciate your
But
time.
they should get an honest answer. I mean, that's all I can give you.
I do want to clarify one last time. Will the EPA step up and ask Biden to declare a disaster
And again,
declaration?
that's
Or to ask for any kind of.
that's
Anything.
and that's a question above my level.
Will
I
you
do-
speak to your?
I do
Hi,
remind
Mira.
them. I remind them every single time we talk about the challenges that are going on down there. They hear it from us on the ground, so they do hear it.
How long does acute exposure really last?
2 weeks. Well, so acute. I'm not sure what you're asking, Christina, but
You said something earlier about 365 days
that's
later. What's
intermediate.
that?
So
Okay.
we have the acute phase, which is 0 to 2 weeks. The intermediate phase, which is 2 weeks to 365 days. Then the chronic phase, which is so the chronic number for vinyl chloride, I think, and I'm guessing here, so don't quote me on it. I think it's 2 parts per billion. Right now, the intermediate number is 20 parts per billion. That's the number by which if you're exposed at any age, even Edward's age, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, that you should not have any adverse effects, right? It should not increase your cancer risk by being exposed to that level for that amount of time. That's what the health experts say. Past 365 days, that number drops to 2 parts per billion. We haven't seen any vinyl chloride. Even, like I said, almost 100 homes tube sampled. We haven't seen any vinyl chloride. I don't think vinyl chloride is an issue. We do see butyl acrylate.
Is that what's in the perk?
Yeah, we do see some butyl acrylate, and but again, it's at low level, but we do see it every now and again. So.
Like, thank you very much
You're
for
welcome,
meeting with us, especially on such short notice. But it was like, I'm here from 6 hours away, and I'm like, okay, I better.
Travel safe.
Thank you. I'm going on the train.
Good to meet you,
Wherever
Jenna.
I play.
It says a music house.
What's it, babe?
The music house.
The music house. Do you want to go get some ice cream?
Are those new ones?
Yeah,
These are from May.
Yeah.
We'll put your ice
I only missed one.
Chloe was
from last week.
But
Yeah,
Another
that's
one.
he's
Oh, here's the other one.
for the sales.
Joy.
So, one before the border, one at the border. I think this one might have gone away. I think so.
Oh, well, East Palestine Road is
Yeah,
there.
I think that one, we might have gotten rid of that one because we had one in so.
Oh, or can people take it?
No.
Oh,
Could
okay.
y'all put up a purple air?
That's for display.
They're on the
Okay.
website right
They're
there.
on the website, yeah.
Oh, okay, because I need my machine.
Yeah, you can see the,
Ready? It's this way.
Come on, buddy.
Could y'all put up
Just
a
like-
purple air monitor to test for the VOCs somewhere around here? Because there's not none around here. And
oh, interesting.
I wish there was one there because there's some around
You know,
Pittsburgh
that's
and
interesting.
stuff.
We had one of
Could you
our,
go back and-
we had one of our air program people here back in, I think, April, and we donated some to the schools.
The purple air?
Yeah, and
For the
we,
VOCs?
yeah, we had them at the schools. It was a science, basically
I would
science.
love to have one up here because there's none really in this general area. And I was watching the PM25s and there was no VOCs.
I'll have to make a note for our air program. So,
Thank you again. Appreciate it. We
Yeah.
just had to go potty.
Yeah.
Oh,
and then let me show you that, you know, well, she's
Oh,
gonna
yeah,
get it
sure.
now.
The what? I don't have your phone. Do you have your phone?
Yeah.
So, like I was saying, Jenna, that's these, you know, this is the 1 mile zone, right?
Okay, yeah, that's
But the
map that I
groundwater-
kept seeing.
Yeah, the groundwater map was expanded.
Oh, is that the Ohio River Company? No, that's
No,
not
that's
Ohio.
a Leslie Run,
Oh.
Old
okay.
Creek, Little Beaver. Yeah, so,
Yeah, when Shapiro first started, like when the evacuation order, it was a map like this. There was no distinguish. Like I knew that this was the state line, but there was a circle. It's like everybody within that. But then in that part of Darlington, I think there was only like 25 people who lived there. But it's like they kept showing that picture. It's like, okay, if you live there, do you know what that means? That's just a funny anecdote.
but you know, going back to the communications piece, you know, we are now in an age of so many different sources of information, right? I mean, you do a podcast, right?
Yeah.
And how many different social media platforms are there? And then you have the traditional news, you know,
Yeah.
there's no uniform way to get people information, right? And on top of that, the information coming often isn't the best information, right? You know, one of the things that I heard from the community in this area early on was that they didn't know where to get good information about what was happening, right? About the emergency, about the evacuation, about the lifting of the evacuation, you know, and that's, you know,
And the motivations behind the lifting of the evacuation and the determining that it was only a mile and shelter in place if you're outside of a mile when that black cloud came across into Pennsylvania, and that was just mostly in the Ohio side.
oh, yeah, I saw some of the videos.
There are so many
Yeah.
things that just did not add up and don't they I mean I'm saying in the past they still don't. Like I still got questions.
fair.
But yeah, and this isn't from some like blogger that I watched on YouTube. This is stuff that I was watching from, and I was hanging on because I noticed the safety versus the of concern. Like I know, and then you brought that up. It's like yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah. No,
And there's different meanings of those phrases, but people say that. And they're, oh, they said it's safe. No, they didn't say it. Listen to what they said.
oh yeah, and it's
Yeah.
one of you know, again.
And I did learn that today, that the cute, it means like from this time to this time, because I was screaming at the TV, what does of concern mean? But people assume that that means safe, and I think that's by design, that you want people to assume, okay, it's cool now. No, that's not what they didn't say it's cool.
Yeah, no, and again, one of the lessons learned when we get to that phase, we're still cleaning up the site. You know, they spent about $1 billion so far cleaning up the site. we get to that lessons learned phase. Those are some of the things that we'll be talking about because
Is it after the 365 days? After the acute?
No. I mean, the lessons learned phase meaning that we have some time to just sit back and say, all right.
When does that happen?
We got to get this done first.
Have you guys done any of those yet? Because like each month we do as unity count, so we do what have we learned this month.
Oh, good. Because
So have you been able to do any of that yet?
well, when we write a report, like our soil sampling report's going to come out sometime soon, and that's kind of our technical lessons learned. But then there's the big picture lessons learned. Those are the things that will come out. When we can sit back and go through our notes from back in February and say, this didn't work so well. This did, And I think one of the big ones that's going to come out of it, Jenna, is exactly what you're saying. That the communication just wasn't community friendly. I think it could have been better.
I think it still could be.
Yeah.
Especially with more folks out there because they refuse to talk to anybody.
Well, that's a different challenge.
At least you guys.
I'm talking about the emergency. Yeah, I'm talking about the emergency managers. The Village of East Palestine, the state of Ohio, us, the public health agencies, Columbiana County Health Department. All take that and then double it for Pennsylvania.
I think you guys, like overall from what we have seen, the communication has gotten a bit better between the interagencies, but
yeah, and a lot of our changes have been based on recommendations that you guys have given us. So.
I think that like people over Pennsylvania have been largely left out still because like I met with my representative last week and it was the first time he even saw the plume map that you guys put out.
Yeah.
And he was like, wait a minute, that means this went all the way down by where I live. And he had no idea. And then he had no idea that the creeks still look the way that they do.
Sounds like he needs to get informed.
Yeah.
Can y'all reach out to people, like the legislature? Do you have that authority? To be able
So,
to reach out to them?
no, actually, early in the response, we did. We set up, and that's one of my responsibilities, was to set up a forum for elected officials to sit down and talk about what's going on. And we would brief, it was usually me, would brief the legislators, and they would field questions, and they would just pepper us with questions. And we would, what we couldn't answer, we would get back to them before the next meeting. So, yeah, that
Just
happened.
state legislators, or did you talk to federal? Did you talk to Casey, Fetterman?
Oh, yeah.
Or did they show up?
Casey's staff has been one of the most engaging staffs.
Really? Because they've
Yeah,
been really
yeah.
quick.
Between I think their masters are working behind the scenes because they've been of the 4 senators, Brown, Fetterman, Vance, and Casey. Casey has been by far the most on us.
I was told to reach out to him too, but when we went to DC, he was busy, so he couldn't meet with us.
They've been all over us.
Well, I'm in Harrisburg, so.
Because there's no excuse for your representative said, oh, wow, that's news to me. The representative should know.
Yeah, and Bill Johnson for this area here in Ohio, he's been all over us.
Well, he's a clown. He's like a
Well,
cartoon.
but Dawn, Dawn, his primary one. Dawn is basically the lady media within his office. I talk to her about every other week. She's
your character?
she bulldogs us, and that pun was intentional because he's Palestine bulldogs.
Yeah.
But she doesn't. No, seriously, she's calling all the time to get updates. So.
Because that might be something, that's a really good point, because if our state legislator doesn't even know, maybe now's a good time to kind of have an update.
At least get a top right.
Happy to do it.
Because I'm really frustrated of my senator, like my,
What's his name?
Senator
Rupp or
Rab.
Rabbit.
Came up
Rep
with us
Rab.
this past week.
Our
Rep Rab, yeah.
AAP.
Oh, Rep Rab was from Philadelphia.
Oh. He's from Philly.
Okay.
I've met him several times.
But yeah, I've been frustrated at the, like Shapiro, while he's the governor, it's like he's tweeting from the Super Bowl while this is going down.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Fetterman's at a Disney World.
yeah, Fetterman's, it's like, y'all can't even bring this up, really? And my congresswoman, because I'm further out, and so at least my congressperson, and she hasn't really said anything about it.
Abigail. Have you guys spoken with her?
Abigail.
She's been really like.
Whose office?
Oh, she's state rep.
Smithville or something.
Yeah.
I'm guessing early on because, like I said, we would have. I mean, the calls we would do, there'd be 100 people on the line.
So,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again.
That's all right. I got What's that? That's you?
Soup is so good. Honey, let me hit the door. Your hands are full.
He can't breathe, so he's taking inside.
Makes me sad.
Can you get that? That's heavy. Oh my gosh. Oh, you want to go down your side?
He came up here one time, when the anesthesia was going on, and he started sneezing immediately and got really sick. And he was like, I'm not going to these houses.
How about the NTSC hearing? They didn't even back the bar.
I'll tell you what. That was so revealing.
Wait, nobody's talking
I knew
about
it was going to be.
Well, I'll tell you.
Do you want to do something for your show since you didn't get to do anything?
Oh, I did.
Should they have, why did you support that decision?
Pulling it up. All right. Bye, thank you. Oh my fucking god.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so much to my buddy Matt for helping me to cut out my crotch and just put that meme I made there instead. Because it was on my legs to a certain point that Christina thought it was my chesticles. It wasn't, so I didn't want to be like, have people misconstrue and kind of negate the seriousness of this. But anyway, so yeah, it was so funny. We were standing by the door to the East Palestine EPA. The last few minutes of that, he could not have pushed us out any faster. He was just like inching us towards the door, and we just kept talking. And then when we left, when we left, he turned that way and we went this way. And he immediately went back in the office. He just wanted to make his escape. Truly hilarious. And no, none of us shook his hand when we were leaving. I was so shocked. I got away with filming recording the entire time. I could not believe he didn't ask me, because I had my phone there the whole time. Granted, it wasn't facing at them, but I mean, my phone was out. And I mean, just truly incredible. And the resident I was with, Christina, she had already recorded him and given that footage to the news. So it's like he hasn't fucking learned anything, which, yay, good. So I'm curious in the comments, what are some of the things that you're just like, holy fuck, I can't believe he said that? Some of mine were the admitting that the people have PTSD. I stay with that one quite often. You can have vinyl chloride in your system if you eat meat and peppers. Oh my God. So here's an update as of yesterday. Christina told me this. Now, if you listen to the whole hour and a half, you'll hear Durno say NIH, the National Institute of Health. So the NIH, you will hear him say NIH probably a dozen times. And when he squarely focuses on data because that's a way to obfuscate, you know, I understand people say they're feeling this way, but the data shows, like, fuck your data, okay? And so everything is the NIH. When the NIH comes and when the NIH does their test and when the NIH, you know, shows their data, but get this shit. So during the meeting, he's saying things like, well, they haven't elected the board yet. That's coming, but they should be here by the end of October, and it's going to change so much. Well, Christina, who was in that movie or in that film, yeah, she called me last night and said, guess what? The NIH is going to be all virtual now anyway. How does that grab your ass? Like, really? You're talking about, well, we can't do this till the NIH comes, and we need to do this before the NIH comes. And now you're saying that they're not coming anyway, and they're doing it virtually. You could have been doing this shit. Then there's also the concern of, oh, if they're going to be doing this virtually, what are they going to do? Be collecting samples and sending them? Like, how is this going to be accurate? It's not. I mean, on the tape, I said to him, we want independent tests done. Well, they are. They're hired by the EPA. Independent. Like, you don't know what independent means? I don't know. There were so many things that just were so upsetting. And it was hard to, you know, it's hard to listen to it again, because I just see this he is a politician in the sense that when he's looking at you in your eye and he's talking to you and he's doing, you know, like trying, you know, it's those little things that people do when they try to convince you, you know, the body language, the little idiosyncrasies. It's very obvious that he's a politician in that regard, and you will catch yourself like, okay, and then you got to step back and you're like, Joy, what the fuck are you? No, this is not okay. But I've met with so many politicians, and they all do that. They all have this like mind control thing. Well, they'll get you believing that they're on your side. And there were a few times I had to, Joy, wake up. This dude is not, no, just don't listen to his bullshit. But yeah, I'm not going to get into details, but he's not feeling too hot lately. And I do find it interesting that he drives 45 minutes each way every single day, when there is a hotel a few miles from the office. I wonder why he doesn't want to stay in town. What reason could that be? I don't know. There's even a hotel about 10 miles out. He doesn't want to stay there either. So you're too scared to stay 10, 15 miles away, but you're going to drive 45 minutes each way to work. I think we all know why. There was a lot on there. That's really mind-blowing, especially for the people who live there and the people like myself and Jenna, who are very knowledgeable about what's going on. I think one of the other things that is very important to know is that there have been statements this week from the EPA that they have the highest rank, and that Norfolk Southern will listen to them and do as they say. But as you can hear on this tape, Mark Durno specifically said that while they are higher ranking, they are negotiating with Norfolk Southern. That is beyond a problem. Because if you're higher ranking and you're choosing to negotiate what? Like, what is there to negotiate? So yes, what I ask is that all of you guys click subscribe, all of you guys smash the like button. Also, please share this. This is something that residents will be using in their lawsuits, because there's some stuff on here that Mark has never said publicly. So I'm glad we did this. I'm glad it's on tape. And I hope that it can help some of the residents. I think the hardest thing that Christina and I were talking about that was really hard to think whether we should even play this one segment of the audio when he was making fun of someone because of their health, you know, their health issues, and laughing at them. It was really hard for us to decide whether or not we should keep that in, because we know how we would feel, and when that resident or someone who knows that resident is told about this, I don't want them to be hurt, and they're going to be hurt that the person who's supposed to help them is making fun of that and laughing at that. And it's pure evil, absolute evil. So my apologies to that. I think, you know, we were really debating it, and I think at the end of the day, we just kind of had to tell ourselves, like, people need to know what a monster Mark Durno is. And I think that segment of the tape is just so important because it shows that lack of empathy, that lack of care or determination to help anyone. So I think it's pretty poignant, unfortunately. So yeah, I'm glad to finally have this out after a month and a half. I was on Lee Camp show earlier today. You can find that. I can actually I'm posting it on my Twitter and Facebook. That was a good show. I got to share some of what's on this tape, a clip from it, and also we discussed what's new in East Palestine, and all that fun stuff. So I will share that as well. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you do have any extra funds and you would like to chip in, I definitely need a blind accessibility keyboard, which broke 4 months ago. And I also need help paying my streaming fees because they just went up. But also, I want to get back to East Palestine. So if you have a few bucks you can chip in, buy me a coffee, join Marie Mann. Jenna, I no idea if you have the link, but if you do, can you please put it there? Everything helps, everything. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and much love.